Hello, Hockey World. Today is Friday, December 16th, 2016.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the HockeyBuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. At least I got the date right this time, Russ, because last week when I said, I think we were doing the Friday show, and normally I get the date right, and I got the date right, but for some reason, I didn't know one of the days of the week was February, because that's what I said. I said February, December 9th, something like that.
Your education failed you at that point.
Yeah, it's that Buffalo public school system. Anyway, there were 7 games in the NHL last night. We'll talk about some or all of them in the next 45 minutes to an hour. Start off with this because it was the most, I think, impactful moment of the night last night for more than one reason, and that was the Cody Eakin elbow on Henrik Lundqvist. Now Lundqvist had it was his first start in, I believe, 4 games. Antti Raanta had 2 shutouts in a row and then lost to Chicago. And this was Lundqvist's first start, and I think it was in the first period. Behind the net, and Eakin, with Lundqvist handling the puck, Eakin goes into the boards, and there was a little bit of a space in between Lundqvist and the boards, but I don't think Eakin was interested in squeezing through. He was interested in walloping Lundqvist, and he connected with his left elbow right to the head of Lundqvist, and the mask went flying, and he went down.
Yeah, I mean, the apology, quote that you get after is really laughable. Like, I've covered Cody Eakin his whole career, and he's a greasy player. Like, that's the way he plays. I'm not saying he's a dirty guy. I'm not saying he's a cheap shot artist, but he plays on the edge. He has to. He's a smaller guy. That's the way he plays. That's the way he gets things going, points going, everything going. And clearly he was looking to get something going for Dallas early in that game, maybe get Lundqvist off his game, because that's been a thing now. Let's talk about that in the goalie intimidation factor, because there is that going on around the league. There's a lot of guys running goalies. There's a lot of guys trying to intimidate goalies. That's why Carey Price went off a week ago. And so now, this happens to Henrik Lundqvist, and it's like, listen, this guy needs a suspension. I'd like to see him get the 4 games for a phone-in, because I think he's getting a phone-in right now. But I'd settle for 3. Anything less than that is sending a bad message. Then you're basically saying, yeah, there's a trapezoid there, but, if you hit a guy, you only get a couple games. So, do what you want.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that, I mean, there's punishment off the ice, meaning by the league, and there's punishment on the ice by their teammates. And this is the thing that bothered me, because, I mean, I don't have a stake in it. I'm not a Rangers fan. I'm just a fan of the NHL, and I think Lundqvist is a great goaltender. But if we're talking 10, 15 years ago, and somebody takes an elbow to the head of a team's goaltender, that guy's losing a couple chiclets.
Yeah, most Ranger fans wanted that. I mean, Rick Nash did do a little bit of a push after the fact, but it was too late. Nothing, happened from that. If somebody would have dropped the gloves, that would have been great. I mean, that's what Ranger fans are looking for. That might even be what Lundqvist is looking for. He'll never admit it, but, I mean, you do sort of want something like that. Things did get chippier as that game went on, obviously. But, that's the one thing that since Alain Vigneault is there, he doesn't really have a lot of guys fighting. And fans do think he's taken that part of the aggression out of the Rangers game and replaced it with finesse. I think there's some truth to that. I do.
Well, and I agree with that, and that's sort of what's going on throughout the league. But the thing is, it doesn't have to be somebody. I mean, I know it's more likely to happen if you have an enforcer on the team, and there are very few have enforcers on their team in the league. But the thing is that this is your star goaltender. This is a guy who should not be touched, and if he is touched, I don't care if you're Michael Grabner.
Yeah, it could be Derek Stepan. I think he was standing around on the play. Let him do it. Doesn't matter.
And the thing is, and I've seen this firsthand when it comes to the detrimental effect that it has on a team, is the Ryan Miller incident in Buffalo where Milan Lucic, and somebody showed the replay of this, and I watched it. Lucic runs over Miller. Miller's out of the crease. He's coming out for a loose puck in the middle of the defensive zone, and Lucic runs over him. And you see the 2 or 3 Sabre players skate up to Lucic, and Lucic is an intimidating fellow, and none of them wanted to take him on. And there was a lot of commentary on how the Sabres didn't have any heart. And then I remember the next game that they played Paul Gaustad, who really didn't want to fight Lucic, fought him and lost, but at least some stood up for him. In this case, it's Cody Eakin. This is not Lucic. This is not like the big bad behemoth from Boston. This is a guy, there shouldn't be an intimidative factor there.
And it's in the trapezoid. That's the worst part about this, is it's in the trapezoid. So it's clearly Cody Eakin can make up whatever he wants to make up, but he knows he can't get that close to a goalie in the trapezoid. If he does, bad things are going to happen for him.
Yeah, and I mean, the greater frequency of goaltender situations this year has been more of the goalie interference calls, more clogging the front of the net, and the replay has been good in some instances. And I think it's been ticky tack in others where it comes to goaltender interference. I mean, there was a goaltender interference call in the Toronto San Jose game on Tuesday, where Nazem Kadri was not really directed into the goal, but he clearly there was contact between him and the defenseman, and he clearly was going to impede Martin Jones. Morgan Riley scores top shelf, probably would have scored the goal without Kadri doing the stuff he did in front of the net, and they ended up calling it goaltender interference, and that was a bit of a turning point in the game because San Jose ended up coming back, tying the game, and winning it in the shootout. So, in that instance, they're being, I think, a little overprotected of the goaltender. But then in the other instance where Lundqvist is going behind the net, now we'll see about the penalty. The league is going to penalize, but I think there needs to be a little bit more, more negative reinforcement when it comes to teams.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is a good moment to say, A, we're going to give you the maximum for the phone-in. B, hey, you know what? Even though this was the phone-in type of infraction, we're throwing the book at you because this is the protected area for the goalie, and clearly you had no respect for that. And that's what I hope happens, because if not, then I think you might start to see some more of these, just because, hey, a couple of games for Cody Eakin are not going to make or break the Dallas Stars. It's not. He's a good penalty killer. He's not a big-time goal scorer. But, the sad part of this is that did nothing for Dallas, like nothing to make them more energized, better. They didn't score on Ronta. The Rangers actually got their first combined shutout ever in their team's history, and Ronta hugged Lundqvist after the game. It was a nice moment because these guys really like each other, and it's cool to see that. I haven't seen that since really Gilles Villemure and Eddie Giacomin when they won the dual Vezina. There's a picture of them like hugging when they won the award. It's a nice thing, and this is bad for the Dallas Stars. This shows you how dead they are.
Yeah, let's take just a brief look at that team right now because, okay, we know that Ben didn't play in the World Cup. Sagan was injured. So there was a little bit of a sluggish start there. We've been well over the territory regarding their goaltending situation. Lettinen and Niemi, they're not getting their money's worth out of either one of them. The thing that we've pointed out and we've talked about in terms of maybe an Achilles heel with that team has been their defense. And, Klingberg, that contract that they signed, the long-term extension, looked like a great coup for Jim Nill because he's a good young defenseman. They got him on a good amount, but there's been some problems there this year. A benching, a healthy scratching. Now he's back in the lineup. They're trying to, I guess, maybe he's not jiving with what Lindy Ruff is doing. They have a lot of young defensemen. I mean, right, this was a team that everybody thought was on the cusp because they could score a ton of goals. Mm-hmm. But there are other things there that are sort of dragging them down. And I don't know if it's the coaching change that might bring them around, or if this is something that Nill is going to have to address with an augmentation of the roster.
I don't think their personnel is perfect, but I think they have good enough personnel to play better than what they're doing. And so, hate to say it, I think a coaching change would help. I think a change in philosophy would help. I think that's what right now this team is really getting bothered by. I mean, because again, if you look at things from the Dallas side, that hit from Eakin should have done something to energize the team. You got the starting goalie out of there. You're in now. You've got the backup. You don't even know when Lundqvist is coming back, if he's coming back. He went right to the dark room, and he did eventually come back. But still, I mean, that's your opportunity to put up a couple goals. Didn't do it, and so to me, that's a bad sign for that team. And I've watched this team intently now for a week, and I'm not seeing any signs of life. Like, it's just bad. On the other side, though, fans are conditioned now. Well, because Lundqvist came back, and we've talked about this too. Well, he came back, so he's probably only going to get a game. This is where the NHL could set another precedent and sort of show the fans, hey, we know we talked about that if a guy, what happens with the results, but this was still so egregious, we don't care. Yeah, and that's what I'd like to see.
A little slow on the draw too, because when it comes to the announcement that they were going to, have a review of the situation. Usually it's pretty immediate, a couple hours.
I think they're piling up though. There's a few headshots now every night. So I think it's a matter of somebody getting in the office, them looking at it. You've got a team. I don't know where Dallas goes next, or if they're staying at home. Actually, I think they stay at home. I think the Flyers go to them next.
Okay.
But you got to get those guys. You got to get them on the phone. You got to set up a time. So I don't think it was that bad. But I just think it was a situation where it was good to see. What'll take a long time is word getting out. It'll get out way after this show as to what what happened. So we'll see it on Twitter.
Good point. But I'm a little, when it comes to the league, I'm not being overcritical here, but when it comes to the league and the length of time it took for the Weidman suspension, and then the length of time it took for the decision on Jared Cowan, I'm a little sensitive when it comes to their response time when it comes to incidents happening.
Yeah.
Now, one of the other games that was interesting last night. So as we said, the Rangers won 2-0 over the Dallas Stars. The Rangers have had 3 shutouts in 4 games. So defensively, they're making up for some of the absences, like Zibanejad. I mean, they're not scoring as much as they did earlier in the year.
Nope.
But they're playing more shutdown defense, and and Lundqvist and Marantz giving them great goaltending. So, but one of the other interesting games on the night was the Arizona Coyotes and the Toronto Maple Leafs at the ACC in Toronto. And Russ, I was, contacting and some friends on Twitter and going back and forth and talking to some media members, and this is one of these games where, as a longtime Maple Leaf observer, you always see when that player who you've traded comes back to town. They've worked themselves up into a lather, and they want to show off that, okay, I'll show you guys that you made a mistake, or it just seems it always happens. And Peter Holland got an opportunity in Toronto, but he didn't this year, and he was traded last week from Toronto to Arizona for a conditional pick. And he had 2 assists in his first game against Detroit, and last night didn't really do much during regulation, but played a lot in overtime, and then scored the shootout winner. It's the 5th loss in a shootout for the Maple Leafs. They're 0-5 in the shootout,
which is crazy,
which is unbelievable with all the offensive talent that they have. But it's throughout the history, they have not been a good shootout team. But recently, like guys like Bozak and Bozak and Van Riemsdyk and a few other players had been really good in shootouts, and they had gone away from those guys. Recently, they had been using Marner and Matthews more in the shootout, and they went back to Van Riemsdyk and Bozak, and them and Marner all hit the post. You had 4 people in the 6 of the 6 in the shootout that hit the post or the crossbar.
That's in their head now. There's no question.
Yeah, and this is second consecutive shootout loss in Toronto. They lost to San Jose earlier in the week in a shootout. And in this homestand that they had, they've lost 3 of the first 5.
So in the last 6 blocks, it's not going to plan.
Right. They make. I don't know when That's
hashtag bad blocks for anybody.
I think Boston was the first game of the Bab block, and if it was, they've got they've got 4 of a possible 8 points, 2 shootout losses and a win. So in his logic, if they beat Pittsburgh on Saturday, they've reached their goal, but they'll have gone 2-1-2. It's sort of, it's just
it's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's a weird answer. It's a weird circumstance. I did see a Matthews goal though, right?
Yeah, Matthews scored, and
there's no more fanfare with Matthews scoring now. Now it's become like drudgery. Like, oh yeah, Matthews scored.
I believe he's leading the team in scoring. He's got 14 goals. He's only 3 behind Line A now.
Yeah, just 14 goals. That's it.
Yeah, just 14 goals, and I think it's 8 of the last 9 or 9 of the last 10. Yeah.
Right. Am I right? It seems like it's become boring for people. Like, there's not much reporting about it.
Well, okay. You had the 4-goal game. Then you had the 13-game goalless streak. Right. Now it's like he's scoring 1 or 2 every.
But Marner's on a 10-game goalless streak, right?
No, he finally ended it.
Finally got one yesterday. Okay.
He ended it. It was at 11, and he ended it yesterday. He scored a really nice breakaway goal to break the streak. So now he'll probably turn it on.
Yeah, I mean they're going to be streaky. They're kids, but they have a great goal total, and it's weird that we hear so much about the Line A goals, and the Matthews ones now are like, eh.
Well,
that's just my take.
No, I think you're right because I can't say with any certainty it's like sort of anti-Toronto.
No, I don't know if it's that. It's just one of these things where I guess people expect Matthews to be great, and so now it's tough for him maybe to meet their expectations. Where I think Line A took them by surprise a little bit with the amount of goals he had. So that maybe he's exceeding some fans' expectations. Maybe.
Well, I'll tell you this, and the goal was what everybody focused on, and there was a play in overtime that if he had scored it, it would have probably been the goal of the year because it was a 2-on-1 in which he batted the puck out of midair, and Mike Smith made a great save on it. But the play, and I've retweeted it, and I'll put it in my blog today. The play that everybody should everybody who's a Leaf fan or anybody who's a fan of hockey should just go woo, about is he back checked on a Coyotes 2-on-1 where he was I don't think he was caught deep, but he.
Wait, so you're saying he has some physical play in his game? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying his defensive abilities, I think, are as
impressive. Right, but when you back check, it's being physical and defensive. So you're saying that he does have that in his game because I read once where he did.
Oh yeah, yes, that's right. Somebody said that his defensive abilities and his abilities along the wall were weak. Yeah, really. But he showed the speed and the defensive wherewithal to back check on this 2-on-1 and. Batted the puck out of midair to prevent the cross ice pass to the other guy. I mean, it was a great play, but see, that's the type of thing. It's like we're not talking about a pure offensive player here. That's what Line A is. Right. Line A is a pure offensive weapon, and he's a great weapon. But I'll be shocked if I ever see that out of Patrick Line A. He may be a okay or decent defensive player.
Yeah.
I think Matthews playing up the middle and playing the way he is defensively as well as offensively puts him above Line A.
Yeah, there's all these other facets to his game. That's all. But yeah, I just feel like it's weird the way it plays on Twitter. I have to talk about Florida for a little bit. I didn't see the game, but they lost in overtime, and it seems like now the word is, well, the power play's working, and I'm like thinking, okay. Your power play is working, but you're still losing these overtime games. You're still hemorrhaging points. I don't think they're making the playoffs the way they are. I just don't.
Well, I mean, and we talked about this yesterday, but the whole situation, the confusing situation with the management, how this is, is talent in control? Has talent been in control? All this stuff. I mean, you listen to people that I respect who are hockey insiders, and one is saying that this is something new that he's back in control, and then others are saying that no, there's nothing different, and you're getting a convoluted picture from the Panthers. Wipe all that aside. Right now, this team is not playing well. Right now, Tom Rowe is not doing a good job in getting this team in on a more positive track than they were under Gerard Gallant. I mean, under Gerard Gallant, they were still over 500, and now that I don't believe they are. So
No, they're not.
yeah, so I mean, it's just to me, it's sort of it's an ongoing, just convoluted disaster with that team because, like I said, they were on a positive track. They are not on a positive track now.
I mean, a couple of regulation wins would go a long way with them. That's for sure. Let's switch it up a little bit for the Islanders because I kept hearing 2 weeks ago, well, they won a couple games, they got some points in overtime. It's going better. It's not going better. They're in dead last. Buffalo is now ahead of them. This season is slipping away. Their seasoning is slipping away.
And unlike some other nights, they got offense from people other than Tavares against the Blackhawks, who, the Blackhawks scored 5 goals against the Islanders. You got Cizikas, you got Andrew Ladd scored his 4th goal of the year. Anders Lee, Ryan Strome actually scored. They were up 4-3.
They can't hold a lead.
They cannot hold the lead. And that's
same with Florida, by the way. Florida had a 2-1 lead in the third, I think. Yeah. This is the mark of a bad team. When these teams can't hold leads, that leads to bigger problems. It does.
And that's the surprising thing because, unless when we had Dan on the show previously, he had mentioned that Hamonic had been playing badly. If a defenseman is out who was supposed to be out for 6 weeks, comes back after 6 days and is not playing well, then you may as well have sat out for 6 weeks because you're being detrimental to your team if you're not at 100% and you can't keep up to the standard that you normally do. And that I would think that because Hamonic is an important part of that team's defense. If he's playing at less than 100% and they're having the problems keeping the puck out of the net, that to me those sort of go hand in hand.
I saw Ryan Pulock play a couple days ago. He looked good. I mean, his shot looks good. He looks engaged on defense. He was hitting some guys. His skating looks good. I don't see why they don't bring him up. I mean, besides being a power play guy, he is a big physical guy as well. Mayfield had a great game. Mayfield looks really good right now, and he looked good at the NHL level. If you remember, Dan was happy with Mayfield's play. I mean, these are two guys that maybe could change the fortunes just putting them in once in a while. They're down in the minors.
Yeah, and I know that Beauvillier was playing very well for them at a point, and then all of a sudden it seems like he's getting the treatment that Barzal got. Yeah. And the thing is, they decided not to send him back to let him play for Canada at the World Juniors, and he's 19, so it's either him staying or going back to junior. You're coming up on that 40-game mark where they may want to burn a year towards unrestricted free agency. So, I mean, it would have made sense if they start to taper off his time to send him and let him play for Team Canada and then let him go back to junior. But here, I mean, this could be like a Daniel Sprong type situation or with Edmonton, the Draisaitl situation.
Draisaitl, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, it makes no sense to have him up and not play him. And if he's not capable of playing, or if Capuano, thinks that it's, he might rather go with experienced players, then send him back.
It just seems like right now, while the search is going on, Capuano's safe, Garth Snow is safe, but the team is sinking. I mean, they are literally sinking. I thought this was a better team than what we're seeing. I knew they would have flaws. I knew they wouldn't score as well. I was hoping the defense could hold some more pucks back. They haven't done that on most nights, and they are now the worst team in the conference. I mean, there's no way any of us would have predicted that.
No. Now, something that came out yesterday and was the subject of my my column on Hockey Buzz. David Alter, who's working for The Athletic, a new outlet in Toronto, had a really a good interview with Frank Corrado, who has been a player who, for the last year and last season and for 28 or 29 games this season, has not played for the Maple Leafs. I mean, he played 39 games last year, but it was only after the Leafs, had started trading players off, so it was sort of garbage time. This year, 29 games he's played once, and they have one of the worst defenses in the league. Right now, Martin Marincin is out for 4 to 6 weeks, and they're down to 7 defensemen, but Corrado's not getting in the lineup. So he came out yesterday and expressed his frustration, and I understand that frustration. And he says, I've talked to Lou, meaning Lou Lamoriello,
Yep.
and he's supportive of me. He told me he likes me and he wants me here. It does make me feel better about the situation, but at the end of the day, the coach is the one who makes the lineup, and if the coach doesn't like you, then you're not going to play. And that's where I am right now. So, his read is that, Babcock is not a fan of his game, that he doesn't like him, and that's the reason why he's playing. And Babcock had a quote yesterday after the game because somebody asked him about the situation, and he I think he fought back a little bit on that, and he said, I'm disappointed he feels that way. If you think of me liking you has anything to do with whether you play or don't play, you're missing the boat big time. I love the guys, and I'm hoping for all of them that they do well. Whether you go in the lineup or not is based on how you play, period. Nothing personal. It becomes personal, and it's just unfortunate that he feels that way. It's too bad. We'll talk a bit, and we talk quite a bit, and we'll talk again. As a young guy, he's frustrated. He had his chance with the media today, and that's life. So Babcock is sort of putting it back on him that he's got to change the way he plays. See, and this is the thing. This article, I think, is reflective of what we've hinted at for a while. There is definitely a difference of opinion here, and this is sort of a tug of war between Lou Lamoriello and Mike Babcock, because Lamoriello thinks that Corrado is a player, and Mike Babcock will not play him.
Right. I mean, he played him once, right?
Yeah, one game in 28. And I like Connor Carrick. I think Connor Carrick can be an NHL player. But when you're rotating in Roman Polak, Matt Hunwick, who are both UFAs, Martin Marincin, Connor Carrick, and you're not giving Corrado a chance, that just smells. I mean, it's
one of those things where the kid's not getting a chance.
Mm-hmm.
In Mike's mind, he gave him a chance. He gave him that game. That's a little rough. It's a little stringent, especially based on the team's record. I could see if you were a first place, second place, third place team, okay, we got a good thing going. I mean, things are not going great for the Leafs defensively. And look, at the end of the day, if Babcock doesn't think he should be in the lineup, he's not going to be. But Corrado did make a mistake by really putting it all out there like that. It doesn't help your situation. It just doesn't.
I see. The thing is, I think it's a no lose for him because nothing was going to change.
I guess he is still getting paid. That's the one part I do want to mention that, he says, yeah, I'm in the NHL and that's great. And he sort of downplayed that a little bit. There's a lot of people that would love to be getting paid. And even if they're not getting in games, traveling with the team, there's something to gain. There's something to gain from practices. There's always something you could gain. And so that's where I would differ with Corrado and say, listen, just sit there and learn, and maybe you'll get your chance. You have to sometimes wait for that chance.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's understandably frustrated, and Corrado is on a one-way deal making $600,000. So, I'd heard like if he gets sent down to the AHL, if he clears waivers and goes to the AHL, he actually gets an increase because the escrow wouldn't be taken.
Right.
So, but I think right now the fact is he wants to play. He's a player. He's 23 years old. And this has been a year out of his hockey life.
But it's not taking food off the table. When he said that, it is not taking food off the table. It is not.
It's not taking food off the table this year. It's taking food off the table in the future because nobody knows whether he can play anymore. When Mike,
we don't know if anybody else was willing to pay him $600,000 for this year. So
it was a qualifying offer, I believe. I think he accepted a qualifying offer. But the thing is,
why did he accept it then?
Mike Babcock is right. Mike Babcock is well within his rights to do what he's doing right now. He controls the roster. He's going to do what he wants to do. But I think observers of the situation look at it and see this is unfair. I mean, if you're, right now you're not a playoff team as much as you want to say that you're trying to compete for a playoff spot, and putting Frank Corrado in as opposed to Martin Marincin or Matt Hunwick or Roman Polak is not going to kill you. And if you don't think he belongs there, then put him on waivers. But the thing is that
he's an asset to the team. They don't have to do that, and I'll back Babcock in the sense that he doesn't have to play him to boost his value so he could leave the team and go somewhere else for more money. That's not his job. And so I get that. next year, what's going to happen with Frankie Corrado is he's probably going to be an ATO for somebody, and he's going to have to prove himself. And if he can prove himself, then he'll get another $600,000. But I bet you he's not signed in the free agent frenzy. I bet you there's going to be a wait and see sort of attitude, which at this point, that's the way it is. That's life.
Well, I would think that, because he's an RFA again next year, I would think that he would reject the qualifying offer.
Yeah, he's going to reject it. He's going to walk away.
Yeah, and he'll look for an opportunity somewhere else. By the way, one other thing on the Leaf page, as I had mentioned about a week and a half ago, Kari Ramo lost again on Wednesday. He's 0-3 with the Marlies, a goals against of 3.80 and a save percentage of .880.
How many in a row has Anderson played now?
Well, Bebo played on Sunday,
right.
So Anderson has played 2 games in a row. And this afternoon, they sent Bebo down to the minors and recalled Jonas Enroth.
I did predict that would happen.
Yep, and so did I, and it made all the sense in the world. And because I think it has nothing to do with Bebo. I think it has everything to do.
No, it has nothing. No, he's just a pawn in this because somebody had to play, so they put him in. But the point is that Enroth is still a pretty good goalie for whatever was shoveled on him in this 2-week little tryout for Kari Ramo. Kari Ramo has not taken hold, and we thought that there was a good chance that wouldn't happen. X not on the show to defend Kari Ramo, but tough luck. But the point is that Enroth played it cool. He's getting paid. He's also getting paid over $2 million on my fantasy team. But beside that, he's getting paid, and he waited it out. And that was the smart thing to do because he's still going to get playing time. The funny thing about all this is while he was admonished and sent down and everything else, Anton Khudobin only has 1 win on the season. And nothing's happened to him in the role as a backup. So that's where I think that, Toronto was too quick to jump the gun on this. And because they had Ramo in house, they felt like, well, maybe there's an upgrade to be made here. And now they realized there isn't.
I just don't get TSN's Jamie McLennan mentioned last week.
Former
goalie. He mentioned on the radio because he does work on TSN radio in Toronto that this smacked of distraction. It's like in terms of it's the backup goalie's fault. So let's get rid of him. Let's bring somebody else in. It's not the defense's fault. It's not the young forward's fault. It's not
It could be, but they didn't get rid of him. That's the thing. They never got rid of him.
Right, but they had the flexibility to send him down to the minors. And ironically, the Marlies have lost 3 of the last 4 games. The 3 games they lost were Ramos. The 1 game that they won was Enroth's start against Hartford. So and so to me, the fact that the Leafs have back-to-back games that are going on the road after they play these 2 more home games. They're going on back-to-back road games before Christmas and then after Christmas, and they cannot play Anderson in both ends of the back-to-back. They won't do that. So that means, who gives you the best chance to win? Ramo's not ready. I don't think they'll ever call Garrett Sparks up again.
No.
And Bebo is young and maybe has a future, but I don't think he's ready. It's a process of elimination, and that means Enroth. Until Ramo proves he can be better, I think Enroth stays the backup.
Yeah, I think that's the way it's going to go. And you know what? It's not going to matter in the big picture to their season. It's not.
Now, I just have to mention one more game just because it's beginning to be a little bit of a concern of how badly the Nashville Predators are playing because they lost 5-2 yesterday to Minnesota. Devin Dubnyk with 34 saves gets the win. Rennie gets 14 saves. I can only say that probably means he got pulled. But they give up 5 goals, and they're not scoring in big bunches. PK Subban's having an okay year, but to me, Russ, this looks like a team that had its heart cut out by trading Shea Weber.
It does seem that way, but I can't say that yet because they had the flu that went through the team, and that really got them off to a bad start. I still think there's a process of fitting in for Subban because he only played for one team his whole career. I think he's not. It's not like he's playing badly, but he hasn't caught fire like you would expect him to. And so I can't do that yet. I'm not ready to. Let's see what they do when they come into Philly on Monday,
Mhm.
see if they can end the Flyers streak or not. That'll be a good test for them because, it'll be a good test for the Flyers because they're playing, a few easy teams in the streak.
Right.
And it'll be a good test for them to see if they can knock a team off on the streak on the road with Laviolette in the building.
Yeah, I was going to say the game is going to mean something for Laviolette coming back to Philly. So
now, if they flatline in that game, then I'm worried about them.
Yeah. Craig Cousins from ESPN wrote a column. If you have to be an insider to read this column, but listing the top 30 unrestricted free agents of the upcoming free agent class in 2017. We're not going to go through all of them. I just wanted to do a little thing that we normally do. You look at some of these players, you see who's on the list. Some of them may sign before July 1st, but it's sometimes interesting to sort of try to gauge what they will get on the open market if they go the open market, or what they will get if they sign back with their current team.
Right.
We'll take about, I'd say, 6 or 7 of them before we end the show here, just to plot out what we think will happen. Now, he lists the number 1 free agent as Joe Thornton.
Okay.
And I mean, you can make a case for that because, probably a future Hall of Famer. He's still an effective player. As he approaches 40, because he's just a big player and can control the puck, and he's not. He was never really that fast, so the speed aspect. I heard somebody recently mention like he's the next Yager. He's going to play into his 40s because he can, and because
he could. It's possible because of the passing ability and the other skills he has. It's possible.
Now, he's with San Jose. The contract that he is currently under, he's making well over $6 million. That contract ends. Him and Marlowe both are UFAs. There has been talk that Thornton wants to stay in San Jose, and why wouldn't? It's near San Francisco, and Northern California is not too bad.
Yep.
But the question is, with Brent Burns getting that big contract, what does Thornton get? I think obviously if he goes back to San Jose, he's taking a hometown discount to stay there.
Yeah. The
question is, what does that mean? How much?
What's his current salary?
Current salary is 6.75. Now
he'll get $7 million, and he'll get it for like 2 years with an option for a third, something like that.
See, that's the thing.
I don't think it's going to go down a lot. I think it will just go up a little bit.
I think it's going to go down, not significantly, like half of what he's making, but I think because they boosted Burns' contract. Burns was making around 5.5.
But Burns is scoring goals that Joe can't score anymore. That's the end of the discussion there.
Right, but they have to pay him 8. So it all depends if they're going to sign Marlowe back too. If they don't sign Marlowe as well,
they will sign Thornton before they sign Marlowe. I guarantee you that.
I have a feeling it would be like a 2-year deal of $5 million per. I think that.
No, I don't think it's going to be that low. I think he's going to get a slight raise. The cap's going to go up, but I think it's going to be a short term, like 2 years and an option on a third, so they see where he's at. Because how old is he?
He's 37, I think.
Yeah. So I think that's what he'll get. I don't think he's going to have to take a cut.
Now, if he goes someplace else and he's on the open market and it's a team that's a number 2 center away from winning a Stanley Cup and has cap room,
he might get $7.5 million.
He might hit the jackpot, but I personally think he's going to stay there. It just sounds like. Yeah. Kevin Shattenkirk, obviously we've talked about him. His name was mentioned. I wrote about him in terms of a possible trade to Montreal or Toronto. I'm not sure if that's going to happen. I personally don't think St. Louis is going to trade him unless they think they can make a Stanley Cup run with Parayko and Pietrangelo and Bouwmeester.
It'll depend who's healthy and who's not at that time of the year,
Now, I think he's not re-signing in St. Louis. I think he's going to get, and he's 28.
Mm-hmm.
So he could make the case for the 7-year deal. And I think that's going to, I think it's going to be 7 years at $6 million per.
I think that's about right. I think he'll, get between 6 and 6.5 and between 6 and 7 years. He's got 22 points in 31 games. I mean, those are excellent numbers, 7 goals. I mean, again, people want to say, Kevin Shattenkirk, he's not that good. He's got 7 goals. Yeah. If I start looking up NHL defensemen, that's a pretty high goal total right now.
Yeah, I mean, Brent Burns has got he's in double figures, I believe. So
yeah, and so like Brett Burns, he gets mentioned as a superstar, and Shattenkirk has 7.
Yeah. Number 3 was Alexander Radulov, and he's had an effect in Montreal. He's played well. He's a little bit of a wild card, but he hasn't done anything that's made things go out of control. Now, Montreal's in an interesting situation because Radulov is a UFA after 1 year, and he could turn this year into big money someplace else or big money in Montreal. And Montreal has to worry about, Carey Price is coming up on a UFA in 2 years. So, and,
yeah, they're not going to break the bank for Radulov, but right. He does have 23 points in 27 games. He is a +7 too, which is significant for him. He's going to get between $5 and $7 million probably for a 2-year deal. That's probably what he's going to get offered is a 2-year deal. I don't think any team – he's going to be 30 going on 31.
Yeah.
I don't know if any team's going to go in any deeper than that, but he'll get a higher per-year salary and a lower term.
I mean, this is the league that offered Alexander Semin a 5-year deal.
Yeah, so, that was like one, misguided situation.
There are not many scorers in this free agent class. That's why I'm saying
no. But it doesn't matter. Even though there's not, this is a situation where teams are still going to be a little leery of him, and he's worth the most to the Canadians. There's no question about that.
Yes, yeah. and they saved a little bit of money in terms of cap space on the Subban Weber deal because Subban made 9 and Weber makes I think 7, 8.
Right, but he's not getting a 5-year deal from anybody.
But the thing is, it's like you thought that like Andrei Markov was going to be off the books, but he's playing good for 30.
Markov's playing great. I mean, Kay Weber's helped a lot in that situation, though.
Yeah, so I mean, they may have to be signing him as well. So,
but he will be cheaper than Radulov.
He'll be cheaper than Radulov, but the thing is, I think Radulov is going to push the edge of the envelope a little bit and try to get more than 2 years. I think he's going to press for 3 or 4.
He will press for that. I just don't know if he'll get it.
Okay. Number 4 is Ben Bishop of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, it all depends on how many teams out there need goaltenders.
I mean, it'll be 3 or 4 like every year.
And how many teams are confident that Ben Bishop can be their number 1 and basically be durable enough, because there's been some injury problems, especially in the playoffs the last few years. He's making over 5. I think it's 5.8 from my memory. Yeah. So, and they have Vasilevsky in place, so he's not going back to Tampa. I think, depending on the Dallas, there's Calgary, there's Philadelphia, depending on their situation. I think he's gonna get what Frederik Andersen got in terms of salary. He'll get $5 million at least, maybe up to 6. But he's 30 years old, so I don't think
he's a Vezina winner. So I think he'll get 6. Yeah. And believe it or not, he's going to get 4 to 5 years from somebody.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page. I mean, goalies. I mean, he's 30, but goalies they can be good into their late.
I mean, Devin Dubnyk's 30. He's one of the best goalies in the league currently.
Yeah. Couple more. Carl Alzner, Washington Capitals. Now, it's a question of whether Alzner will leave, whether the Capitals will step up. They Justin Williams and TJ Oshie are coming off the books. They think they may be interested in re-signing Oshie. I would doubt that they're going to re-sign Williams. I think he's an integral part of their defense. But he's making 2.9 right now, 2.8 right now. I think because there is such a dearth of defensemen, he's going to get $5 million. And he's not a $5 million defenseman. No,
$5 million.
Jason Demers got $5 million.
Jason Demers still had a little bit of more of a track record that Alzner has. I mean, Alzner's solid, but in 537 games, he has 100 points. He is a +45. He is a good defender. He's fast. He has size. I think he'll get between 3.5 and 4 for 4 to 5 years from somebody. That's what I think. I don't think he's getting $5 million though. He's only getting paid 1.2 now. I don't think he's jumping to 5.
No, he's being paid 2. He's 2.8.
Is he more than that? Okay, this is a site that said 1.2. I should have. Okay.
He's 2.8, and the
2.8. So yeah, this will be a little bit of a raise. He's only got 4 points this year. It's not going to be a significant raise. Remember, the offensive defensemen get paid the most. Then the best puck movers are next, and he's right in that puck moving range. He's not in the range of offensive defensemen.
Finally, I'll skip TJ Oshie. Well, let's go with Nick Bonino. Nick Bonino, a key contributor to the Pittsburgh Penguins and their Stanley Cup win last year. Third line center playing with Kessel. I think he's making less than $2 million right now.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Sweetheart deal. Now, you would think that he'd probably want to stay in Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh, we know, because they got those big ticket items in Letang and Malkin and Crosby and Kessel, that they're going to be challenged to create space.
Mm-hmm.
I think if Bonino wants to make better money, he's going to have to go elsewhere. So if he stays in Pittsburgh, now Kunitz is coming off the books. If they trade Fleury, that clears space. Dupuis is retired, but I think there's some money still going to him, so they may have the room. I would think he would be a 3-year deal of $3 million if he stays in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think he can get 4 years at $3 million. I think $3 million is a good number. The interesting thing is, in Anaheim, he had more of an offensive role. With Pittsburgh, he doesn't get any power play time. He doesn't get a lot of offense. He's got 13 points in 30 games, but when you go out on the open market, it's not like his career high is 49. He's not getting anywhere near that. Last year, he got 29. That's sort of what he's on pace for. So if they win another cup, he'll certainly return to Pittsburgh, and they'll give him a good raise. But if he's going on the market, which I probably think he will, then I think 3 years, $3 million, even an option for fourth is fine. But I don't think he's getting much more than that.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't watch the Penguins all the time. I'll get to see them tomorrow night in Toronto.
He's really good defensively. He's good on faceoffs. Like, he does a lot of little things.
Right, but they had that HBK line with him and Kessel and Hagelin last year in the playoffs, and I think, and I've been seeing Kessel more in situations playing with Malkin and occasionally playing with Crosby. So I think that they're sort of going away from that, and then maybe in the playoffs when they try to sort of differentiate their offensive attack, they may go back to that. But that takes away from his offensive totals, and if that does, then he won't be able to demand as much. But I mean, having a third line center who's as good as he is and helped them win a cup last year, he's going to get paid. It's just a question of how long and how much.
Right.
All right, well, good show, Russ. We will be back on Monday with another edition of the Hockey Buzzcast. Eklund should be back. For Russ Cohen, for myself, Michael Agello. Thanks for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.